Linnell retired from a 42-year career in the computer industry in 2013, where he worked as CTO and VP. He is the founder of misstech.org and serves as president of the Boston branch of the Anthroposophical Society. He is the author of 3 art history books, plus 2 children's books and 9 misstech study guide books. He is a frequent lecturer on anthroposophy, Christology, the ancient mysteries, and the role of technology in human evolution. Please welcome Andrew Linnell.
Well, thank you for that warm introduction, and I am very thankful to be a presenter at this conference on spirituality and the arts. As a side comment, my ancestors came over on the Mayflower. Harvard was founded in 1636 by Puritans who likely were blood related to me. Anyway, this 20-minute lecture will venture not only into Christianity of the Puritans, no, it won't, but it will rather go into esoteric and early Christianity as we explore the artwork of painting's greatest genius, Leonardo da Vinci. This genius was well along with this painting in 1481 when he suddenly abandons it. This adoration of the Magi was to have been his coming out masterpiece. It would have established Leonardo as the Florentine master, but he just walked away. Luckily, it eventually made its way into the Medici family's collection. Instead, he begins this Virgin of the Rocks. Art historians have marveled at why. When he left Florence for Milan early in 1482, he took his other unfinished paintings with him, but not this adoration. Why? It was a dangerous time for anyone who held views that differed even slightly from that of the church. Leonardo faced an active inquisition and also the fundamentalist Dominican friar Savonarola. Once Leonardo arrived in Milan, he quickly won a commission from the Confraternity of the Immaculate Conception to paint something similar to this Virgin of the Rocks. Here you see the copy that stood in his studio for almost 25 years, while eventually a legal battle caused Leonardo to return to Milan to alter this copy to satisfy that confraternity. Leonardo's partner, Ambrogio de Preti, had long since decided they were done with it and had varnished the surface. Painting halos and a staff of John the Baptist ended this legal battle and satisfied the confraternity. You see them painted on top of the varnish. Why did Leonardo refuse to do so earlier? Obviously, the confraternity wanted it to be clear which boy was Jesus and which was John the Baptist. Why did Leonardo take nearly 25 years and a legal requirement to agree to such iconography? The Pistis Sophia was available to Leonardo to read. It refers to not only 2 messiahs, but also to 2 families. The passage from chapter 59 to 62 is most significant. 2 boys, both named Jesus, are described in this passage. They seem to be about 12 years old. From chapter 61, we read, and I quote, "He embraced thee, he kissed thee, and thou also didst kiss him, and then you became one," end quote. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1947, long after Leonardo's life had ended. They were written in Hebrew and Aramaic by Essene initiates from 150 BCE until about 70 AD, when the Roman army dispersed all Jews. These and other prophets expected two messiahs, one kingly and one priestly, perhaps out of the streams of Cain and Abel. They expected there to be a later merger so that the body for the Redeemer could represent all of humanity. A research team, Livius.org, wrote, the Qumranites expected the coming of not one, but two messiahs, one of priestly lineage and one kingly. One scroll, the Damascus document, states the Messiah, which is the son of Joseph, will be made one with the other Messiah, the son of David, but he will be killed. We also find references to two messiahs in three books of the Old Testament that you see listed here: Zechariah, Numbers, and Ezekiel, which also talks about a merger of the two. Several expectations of two anointed ones are also found in other holy texts, such as the Book of Zohar from Kabbalistic roots and the Testaments of 12 patriarchs. In summary, the prophets expected two births, two messiahs, and a later merging. Rudolf Steiner's Christology, condemned by the church, claims that the two nativity stories of Matthew and Luke describe different families and different births. This chart outlines the striking differences. In Matthew, the family was well off, lives in Bethlehem, and its Jesus had at least 6 siblings. In Luke, the family is poor, from Nazareth, and its Jesus was an only child. The Matthew family flees to Egypt, while the Luke family safely returns to Nazareth, after paying their taxes, of course, and having their newborn son circumcised 8 days later in the temple in Jerusalem. Professor Bart Ehrman lists many more differences on his website, bartehrman.com. Like Origen and other fathers of Christianity, Steiner places the birth of Christ, not Jesus, birth of Christ at the baptism. Luke's gospel once had the words, "This day I have begotten thee." Today it reads, "In thee I am well pleased." We can only understand this with an understanding of the human being as composed of body, soul, and spirit, and the body as sheaths, with names anthroposophy gives of astral body, etheric body, and physical or mineral body. We know that at age 28, Leonardo was already part of the Medici household. As such, he would have known Marsilio Ficino and the secret members of the Accademia Platonica. There is an odd journal entry in his notebooks that says, "The Medici made me and the Medici destroyed me." Could he be referring to the role the Medici had in bringing him to a form of initiation when the old me is destroyed and a new me is born? Initiation profoundly changed an individual. Might we entertain the idea that Leonardo, here in his 30th year, received an initiation that so profoundly changed him that he knew he could no longer paint according to church dogma, but only according to spiritual truth? You see, Florence at this time was home to many secret societies, and Leonardo kept his private life secret. He acted much like and garnered the respect given to an initiate. When Leonardo later moved to Milan, he set up his own academy based on this Accademia Platonica in Florence. The original hierophant of the Accademia Platonica was Georg Gemistus Plethon, who was the catalyst for the Renaissance. Emperor John, the Byzantine emperor, had placed Platon, called the wisest man on earth, among the set of envoys that he sent in 1438 to the Council of Florence. Because he was a pagan, he was not admitted. Instead, he offered lectures on the ancient Greek, Chaldean, Egyptian, and Persian philosophers and mystics. Cosimo de' Medici attended these lectures. Out of his excitement and inspiration, he founded the Academia Platonica and placed his wisest man, Marsilio Ficino, as its head. In 1440, Platon returned to Greece to found a mystery center near Sparta. Now, only a Hierophant could do that. A Hierophant would know how to initiate others, which would be done in a mystery center. I conjecture that Ficino was so trained, and later he was the one who initiated Leonardo in his 30th year. Now, Platon brought a trunk full of books on esotericism, hermeticism, and magic. The Medici team set to work to translate them from Greek to Latin. These books helped Leonardo to confirm what he had experienced during his initiation in the Academia Platonica in 1481. Are these kissing babies a portrayal of that kissing scene from the Pistis Sophia? Ah, well, these boys are certainly not 12 years old. Did Leonardo use innocent babies for that kissing scene so as not to stir up anti-homosexual sentiment that he had had to endure earlier in his life when police arrested him and a few other young men for nudity in public? Was the intent to depict non-sexual pre-puberty intimacy? Leonardo and his students did extensive studies of kissing babies. Why? This painting is by Jus van Cleve, who is known as the Leonardo of the North. Jus and his students painted dozens of these kissing babies. Why would any artist of this time paint this scene over and over again? More importantly, who is being depicted? Here we see the Thulan Madonna by Marco Daggiano, who was a student of Leonardo. Between her hands are these kissing babies. Note her hand gestures. Her left hand is on the Book of Wisdom. What do you think her right hand is doing? Take a moment to compare the Thulan Madonna to Leonardo's Virgin of the Rocks that hung in the same studio where Marco Daggiano painted this. You'll notice the obvious similar head tilt. Pay attention to the hand gestures of the Madonna in both. In the Thulan, her left hand draws from the Book of Wisdom. In the Virgin of the Rocks, it is her right hand that seems to draw from the kneeling boy that she's touching. Here we see the Holy Family by Bernardino Luini next to the Thulan Madonna. In each, we have the holy infants embracing between the hands of the woman. Why? The female's hand gestures are exactly the same as in Virgin of the Rocks. In Holy Family, her hands are incongruous for this scene. By doing this, Luini is telling the viewer that as a student of Leonardo, he knew of the secrets of the Virgin of the Rocks. Now we compare this one by Bernardino de' Conti. Compare it to the Thulan Madonna. They are remarkably similar, except for the backgrounds and some other important details. What is symbolically meant by the book? To whom do you think its wisdom is granted? Look closely at their halos. What do the halos tell us? They show us which boy is going to be crucified, the one with the 3 crosses on his head. Why 3 crosses? Because 3 were crucified on Golgotha. Now compared to Conti's painting to the original Virgin of the Rocks, again we see that the Madonna's hands are reversed. Thus, too, are the children. De Conti is showing us that the 2 children of Virgin of the Rocks are the same 2 children of holy infants embracing, but on different sides. And De Conti is telling us that his central figure is bestowing from the book of wisdom. Thus, in Leonardo's painting, the bestowal is from the wisdom of the kneeling boy to the sitting boy. By using the same background, De Conti tells us that his painting also reveals something important about his master's original Virgin of the Rocks. Here we have the familiar 2 children from Virgin of the Rocks. Who would you expect to be in their midst? Madonna, right? This painting is called The 3 Children. Given that John the Baptist is the one in the middle, who then are the other 2? Why has this not been noticed by art historians? Well, because it was unknown until 2005 when art historian Carlo Pedretti was allowed to use it in an exhibit in Ancona, Italy, and it remains today in a private collection. Note the 2 boys are in exactly the same poses as in Virgin of the Rocks. The one on our left has royal robes. Unlike the Virgin of the Rocks, the boy on the right has that halo of 3 crosses. Why is John the Baptist between them? We see these paintings speaking to each other. We can now conclude that the kneeling boy is not John the Baptist in Virgin of the Rocks. But then, who is this kneeling boy? The one who has the 3 crosses for a halo, that must be Jesus. Again, who is that boy with the royal robe? Even Raphael must have been in on this secret. Here is his Madonna Terra Nuova. The boy on the left is John the Baptist. The naked baby in Madonna's lap is Jesus. But here again, we have a 3rd boy with a halo and royal robes on the right. I conclude that the 2 who are not John the Baptist are the 2 messiahs, both named Jesus. But if this theory of 2 Jesus children is to be seriously considered, why then is there just one Jesus later in life? Now remember that Gnostic text, the Pistis Sophia, as well as those other texts. They spoke of a merger of the 2 messiahs as boys. These prophecies claimed that one messiah would be kingly and the other priestly, and that before puberty they shall become one in thine hand. To avoid the watchful eye of the Inquisition, Leonardo addressed how the 2 became one through his students. This is Jesus Among the Doctors by Leonardo's student Bernardino Luini. The hand gesture over the heart of Jesus presents the theme of the 2 becoming one. This Jesus Among the Doctors is by Bernardino de Betto, known as Pinturicchio. It is another example showing that Leonardo used his students to safely tell this story. The books of the learned doctors have been thrown on the ground, symbolic that their knowledge fades in the face of this 12-year-old boy. Note his halo with a red cross inscribed, indicating his divine destiny. Notice the hand gesture. It says, the 2 will become one. Next, we notice the feet. On our right, the child with the halo is standing on the earth, barefoot. On our left, both children's feet are lifted off the earth, one by socks and one by shoes. Of these two children, one is well dressed like the son of a king, the other poorly dressed like the son of a shepherd. These two are departing. They represent the two Jesus children as they once were, but will no longer be. We see that these two boys are framed by 5 individuals. Each of the 4 carry an object in their hand. These have not been tossed to the earth. The 4 facing the two children represent the physical, soma, psyche, and pneuma. The 5th is the Hierophant who performed the spiritual merging of these two within the Holy of the Holies. The spiritual result was the boy with the halo, now Jesus of Nazareth. Leonardo abandoned what was to have been his masterpiece, the adoration of the Magi, to paint not dogma, but truth. He was bound to the truth through his initiation within the Academia Platonica in 1481. Thus, instead of this adoration, he immediately began to paint this Virgin of the Rocks. We found that Leonardo, with the help of his students, was able to show how 2 messiahs enabled Christ to enter a body representing all of humanity. Embedded in the stories of Matthew and Luke were 2 different streams, likely those of Cain and Abel, that reached resolution by emerging. Then Christ could enter such a human body for all of humanity. This story, if told solely by Leonardo, may have led to a condemnation and death by the Inquisition. By spreading the story out over so many paintings and painters, a mystery was revealed in plain sight that was yet invisible to the Inquisition. I call this sheer genius on the part of Leonardo. Oops, I left one character unidentified. Leonardo was a lover of wisdom, of divine wisdom, of the Virgin Sophia, of the women at the cross. In John 19, we discover that the mother of Jesus is unnamed. We read, "There stood by the cross his mother, and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene." In Luke, Mary was the only child of an elderly couple, Joachim and Anna. She had no sister. Now you are at the threshold of yet another secret of this painting. Metaphorically, Leonardo has been and continues to be our light at the end of the tunnel of materialism. Through his students and his own paintings, Leonardo sought to restore for our soul, through art, the spiritual essence of Christianity. And this brings me to my end, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next and final presenter is Henry Kramer. Are you booted up or